acoustic automation.
All right. Once you've installed Apogee Quartet Maestro 2, find it in the applications folder. Make sure everything is plugged in, powered up. And you're going to see the quartet over here if it's detected by the computer. You're going to have tabs here for the controls. So there's input, which is going to control inputs. You can see that we have one microphone plugged in already. We'll get back to that. Output is going to control the outputs. There are 6 quarter-inch jack outputs, and then the headphones. Device settings controls what the buttons on the device do. So touchpad A, B, C are the 3 buttons above the kind of volume multi-use knob. And so I've set A to be mute for the headphones because I'm mainly mixing with headphones, recording and things like that. If you wanted to mute all outputs or toggle between a couple outputs, you could choose that there. I'm not sure what dim does. Maybe it sets the levels down or something on the meters. No idea. Sum to mono. I set that for touchpad B. Sum to mono in the headphones. This is interesting when you're doing a stereo mix. You just press that and you instantly get a mono, so you can hear if there's a difference. And then touchpad C, clear meters. When the input or output levels peak, the red stays red permanently. That's another setting you can set somewhere else, but when you hit C, they clear. If you had multiples of these, you could name them A, B, C. So since there's only one, we're going to be seeing that it's called A throughout. Encoder push assignment. The encoder is that big volume button, and you can click it, and it mutes all outputs. And then you click it again, and it unmutes them. And I don't know what lock home view does, but don't have to worry about that. Output routing. We're going to come back to this later, but there's a concept of software outputs, which we can choose which lines the outputs, the kind of virtual outputs, where they go to. So if, for instance, we wanted everything to go out line 5 and 6, we could click all these along here. And then these devices, when we made a mix for software output 5, 6, it would go out to line 1 and 2, and 3 and 4, and 5 and 6, and the headphones. Now, if say we had 2 sets of studio monitors, maybe we would put one of them on software mix 1 and 2, and we might put the second pair on software mix 3, 4, and maybe we would put our headphones. You kind of have to double click these. They're a little bit weird. They're a little bit flaky when you click them, but we'd maybe put our headphones on line 1, 2. So the first monitors and our headphones would have the same mix, and the other monitors, maybe that would be like inside of a secluded off studio. Maybe that would be lines 3 and 4 here. And this will make more sense when we start getting into the mixer options, which is the next tab. So we have 2 virtual mixers. So these are like as if we had control over a full big mixing board. We have mic 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are the 4 inputs on the device. We have ADAT 1, 2, 3, 4 through 8. This would be if you used another preamp that had an optical output that you could run through this. So if you ever need more inputs, that's a possibility. But for now, ADAT 1 through 8, these do nothing. So we can just set the levels down or ignore them. They're going to make no difference. It would be nice if we had a way to hide them, but I don't think that exists. So mic 1, 2, 3, 4 is in both of these places, up above and below. And then we ultimately have our software return, which has to do with those virtual channels that we were talking about in the output routing section. We'll come back and forth a little bit here. And then kind of our final master volume. All right, so the mixer is used for a low latency monitoring sort of situation. When you actually start recording in Logic, you can decide if you need to use this or not. It's mostly if Logic is a little bit too slow and you're able to hear the latency, then this can help you record where it won't mess up your timings because it's almost, if not entirely, in sync with what the microphones are doing, what you're going to be hearing in the mix as you're monitoring. Otherwise, you might not really need to use this too much, and it gets a little bit simpler. So, just to work our way through the rest of the settings here, system setup. If you don't like that the levels hold forever when they peak, so overhold the red, you can turn it off and make it 2 seconds, but I guess I find it kind of nice that it's on infinite. The peak would be like the most recent or whatever, 2 seconds. I don't know. You can just choose whatever you want for that. Keyboard volume control. So you can use this thing as your computer's sound. And if you do that, you can have the volume up and down buttons on your keyboard either control the speaker or the headphones. I think the default was the speaker, which didn't really make sense to me, so I switched over to headphones since I'm mostly using headphones when I work on the computer. Depending what you're doing, you can set the sample rate. So if you are doing recordings for a studio, you could ask them what sample rate they want. Higher is better, but it takes more space. And so if they don't really care, you can just stick with something from maybe this range to 96, or if they want the absolute best, you can go to 192. It'll just be bigger files. That's probably fine. This does help with latency if you choose a higher rate, but it also is probably more taxing on the computer. So you can try it out at the highest setting. If it works, great. If it doesn't, maybe try something in the middle or something at the lower end. These are still fine recordings. It's not as if it's compressing or anything like that. So if you're not going to be doing a lot of special effects, I think it probably doesn't matter, but the mixing studio probably knows more on that. If you have trouble getting this to stick, we might need to look at what it was. I was using this to play music from iTunes, and everything playing music on the computer is only geared for 44.1, and so I tried setting it higher, and then it just bounced back, and it'll require a little bit of putzing around to make it actually stick. Okay, so back to the input section. Now, let's say we have our 4 inputs. We're going to start connecting up some microphones. So what do? These maybe came by default on the instrument level. That's how it was for me anyway, analog level instrument. And it came soft limit off, or actually, for whatever reason, channel 1 was, I think, frozen, maybe because of Xcode or something. I couldn't choose it, but this is how it came, instrument and off. If you're recording a guitar or something, instrument might be right. I don't really know. This -10 and +4 are kind of like line level and studio level sorts of things, but vast majority of the time, I suspect you're going to want analog level mic. And so we could put that right across the board for all of these. And as I did that, you see that these 48 volts become available, and it even remembers that I had channels 2 and 3 enabled for this for the phantom power. So if you want to turn on phantom power, you click that. That turns it on. You might even be able to hear that little click as the relay turns on, and then you click it again, and then it turns off. So if you have microphones that need it, that's that. This little O with the line through it is inverting the phase. That is, I guess, important if you're doing something like miking a snare drum and you have a microphone on the top and the bottom. If you invert the phase, it makes, on one of the microphones, it makes it sound better, or something like that. I actually have a matched pair of these Rode microphones, and I think you could set them up next to each other and invert the phase on one of them, and then it would cancel out all the noise when you put the tracks together, or something like that. I don't really know, so I don't know why I bought that, because I still don't even know what it does 10 years later. Okay, so you got your mics, and then you have your mic levels, which is the gain level that these microphones support. And they go from 0 up to 75. Wow, okay, that's really good. So I think above 70 or so, you're going to start hearing a little bit of hissing noise. We may be able to get a demo of that later, but a lot of, I don't know if the right word is headroom on the microphones, but that should be good enough gain for the vast majority, if not all, microphones that you would ever be using. And the reason that I chose this recording interface is that allegedly the preamps on these microphone channels are very good. And so hopefully they get really good quality recordings. So you can set the levels here. You can also set the levels with the hardware. So if I want to pick a level, and you won't be able to see this on the screen, but I'm going to tap level 1. So I just tapped the 1 icon and it highlighted the light on it. And then I start turning the knob and it starts picking a level. And so now I've set it to 40. And sadly, the UI here doesn't update. So that's pretty stupid. But I did change the level. I set it to 40. Whatever you do last is going to be what changes it. So if I set this up to 60 now, oh my gosh. Okay, so the easiest way to do these is click once and either move straight up or straight down, then you're going to get a pretty smooth performance. If I go left and right, it really doesn't change unless I also go up and down. So if I set this to 60 here, and then I turn the knob again, 61, 62, 63, 64. Okay, now I don't know why I changed the knob and it actually changes on screen there. That's great. But sometimes it doesn't. So you have to just trust whatever you did last. Fortunately, you'll basically set these for the microphone. You might adjust them a little bit. You won't have to be trusting them too much in this program. You can also adjust them in Logic when it comes to that. So we'll get there eventually. Soft limit. I think there's not a lot of downside to using this, so I'm just going to keep the soft limit on. It basically prevents it from digitally clipping if you're going to get to the top of your levels. We'll come back and do a little demo of that, but I think it's probably good, and I don't think there's much downside to it. So, yeah. If I did want my microphones that are in a pair to be in a pair, I could set the group on them like this, and if I had set their levels, then when I change the levels, that's funny, they should change together, but for whatever reason, they are not. So that's dumb. Okay, let's set that there. Let's set group 1, group 1. Let's see if it does it now. Huh? Nope. Lame. Well, I don't know what's up with that, but anyway, that was working before, so there is a way to group these as things, and then they should work together, but, oh, now it's doing it. Hooray! Okay, now, you know, it's not perfect. Anyway, whatever levels you set, so I'm going to turn it off. If you set them to the same level, 26 dBs on both, set to, and now when I change them, they should stay in sync. So if, I don't know, I had 2 microphones I wanted exactly the same, that would be, I could control them at once. So now I have my microphones, my dynamic microphones with the phantom power turned on, and I have channel 2 is just sitting on my desk, so I'm not really going to use that one. And I'm going to set it down here. Channel 3, I have on a little microphone stand here, and so I'm going to bring that down to like this level here. Okay, if I bring this up, now I'm going to turn off soft limit here. Start bringing up the gain. Oh my gosh, oh, it's clapping out so much. Wow, that's way too much. Oh, it's too loud. But if I turn this on, and I'm going to hit the C button. So it's cleared it over there. I don't know why it didn't clear it here. I can also hit this clear button, clear meters thing over here. Okay, well, I guess you got to clear it in 2 places. Crazy. Okay, now I have soft limit on, and I guess it's still limiting, so that's just too much. But I think the recording would actually be a little bit okay. I don't know, a little bit crazy. Okay, so we're on the input still. Let's look at the output routing and mixer options a little bit to see what would happen if we wanted to use this just as a mixing board, or if during the recording session, how we get this going so that it can provide that low latency monitor for the recording so that you can keep good time, basically. It's the most important thing. So we got our microphones. We're using channel 3 here. It kind of defaults to level -6 here. I think these are solo and mute buttons, but I haven't actually played with those yet. And one error that I made earlier was that the output routing actually has options for mixer 1 and mixer 2. So those correspond to mixer 1 and mixer 2 right here. And when I make a mix in mixer 1, eventually it's going to have some things happening over here. I actually don't quite know why this isn't bouncing around a little bit right now, but maybe it's because levels. We'll figure out. We'll figure it out. Output routing. So if I want to hear mixer 1 in the headphones, I come over here and I look at this grid and I say phones are right here and mixer 1's right here. So I double click there. And now, though you can't tell from the recording, I can hear a little bit of the monitor in the headphones from the microphone. So if I come here, for whatever reason, it's coming here. Yeah, I guess this would be one, two. That would be the software return would be if we were sending something to lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in pairs from Logic, then I think these would be bouncing a little bit. Let me see if I just play something a little bit. And then we see the software return bounces. I don't know if that's related or not, but yeah. So I set my levels for microphone 3. Now this isn't, in the perfect zone right here, so maybe we go over here and we boost it up just a little bit more and clear my meters off here to make sure I don't peak. And now I'm starting to really hear myself more, and you can even hear the computer fans and things like that. Come back to my mixer, and I'm hearing a little, even though nice spinning, I'm hearing a little tiny bit of what feels like clipping. Not quite sure. Gonna clear that on the board. We'll see if we get this to happen here. Oh, application not responding. That's always nice. Okay, so we seem to be solidly in yellow. Don't seem to be clipping out too much. That seems just fine. We can obviously lower our levels here. Now I can't hear myself in the monitors anymore, and I can raise myself up. That's great. Now I sound really hot. I'm going to bring it back down to like 0 there. I can set things like the pan. So now this is panned all the way over in the left, and now it's panned back into the center. Just about. Oh, yep, okay. So this feels basically instantaneous. I can't tell if there's any delay, but it feels effectively right away. And effectively, whatever mix you put here, so you pick your microphones, you set your levels a little bit separately. Like you could leave all these at 0 basically, and you could just set the mix master to what level you want your monitor and your headphones. And then this would be kind of independent of what you're going to be recording in Logic as a channel back to the headphones or back to the monitors for the recording. Probably headphones, because I guess otherwise these microphones wouldn't really work and they'd be picking up all the duplicate stuff. So mixer 1, phones. I feel like I haven't explained this very well, but that is a thing. So software return, we can set outputs in Logic. And so if we want to do things like add reverb to a track, we can send that to a certain bus, as they call it in Logic, to channels like output 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. Say we send it to 1, 2, then these levels are going to start bouncing, and we would be able to monitor both the real immediate monitoring of the microphone, that's just the pure channel, as well as whatever effects we put on there, like a compressor and a reverb and whatever other things we might want. As well as when we play our track and we have our other tracks playing, then they would play on the software return, and so then the levels would be bouncing on here, and we could choose what ratio we wanted with this. So that's the mixer. We choose the output routing. It's a little bit confusing until you start getting it together. But probably this will be a setup one time sort of thing, and then we'll be good to go.
All right, let's do an overview of the hardware interface of the Quartet. So you have this encoder knob, which is a button as well as a knob, and the default option for it is to mute both the speaker and headphone outputs. So now it's unmuted, and then you can adjust the level as well. Whatever icon is highlighted here is what you're going to be controlling. So if I wanted to control my monitors, I would just tap that, and that would be my first pair of speakers. I think you might be able to click through them or something like that. But if I want to adjust my headphone level, it's nice and loud now. Bring it back down. Then I have my ABC buttons, which I can set in the system setup or maybe device settings. Yeah, device settings. within the Maestro program. And so the way that I set those before, A is going to be a mute for the headphones. Just tap it again to unmute. B is going to be mono, and there's a little icon that comes above the headphones there to show that it is in mono mode. Tap that again to turn that off. And C clears my levels, which I don't have anything peaking right now, but if I had, then that's what would have happened there. So now, if I want to go to like level 1, which I currently have, let's see. Oh, that's currently my line in, so I'm going to actually switch over to channel 4 for the microphones here. And I have a microphone plugged into this that doesn't require phantom power. But if I hold down on that button for about 2 seconds, I get this little options here of what sort of things I want to have plugged in. Instrument, like if I had a guitar plugged in, mic 48 volts if I needed phantom power turned on, mic, I turn this knob, I don't click it in, and then when I want to save the settings, I click right there, and that's what saves the settings. So for channel 3, for instance, if I go to that, I can adjust the levels, and it's cranked all the way down now, but now I can see that I'm starting to get some levels on it. So if I hold on channel 3 here, 1,000, 2,000, I get here, and I see that 48 volts is on, and that little red dot above the microphone indicates that phantom power is on. So if I turn the knob one to the left, tap it again, now it's going to cut away phantom power, and it's going to fade off the microphone here in a second. And pretty soon now there's going to be no levels coming from that microphone. And so it's a couple seconds behind there because that's that. But even if I crank the levels way up, now I just get a little bit of fuzz, but no actual sound. Even there I can hear a little bit of whatever noise, but probably just picking up on the cable since I'm in a fairly noisy environment here. So that's pretty much the overview of the hardware options. You just choose which channel you want to change the levels for, you come over to the knob, and you adjust the levels correspondingly. Most all these controls can also be accessed within the Apogee program or within Logic or whatever editor you're using. All right, thanks for watching. Stick around for part 2, where we will discuss recording into Logic and a little bit more of the Maestro control panel. Click any of the links, which go to sponsored Amazon links if you're interested in any of this gear. And feel free to leave any questions in the comments. I will try to answer them either in the comments or in another video.